So we're still in this series that we've been going, we call it All In, and we're going through talking about different people and just the faith. We're in Hebrews chapter 11, and we'll go back to Genesis as well, but we're looking at these people and just their tremendous faith and just what they did. And some of these stories seem kind of fantastic. Like you just look at them and you look at their life and it just seems like, well, this isn't normal life. And I look at some of these guys and I'm like, I don't have stories like this. I don't have stories of building a huge ark and the world being flooded and like God used me in that way. I don't have these huge, amazing stories like this. So we're looking at these, and I want you to understand that these are presented to us, and when we see this in the Bible from other people talking as actual historical events. So these aren't just stories. These aren't just things that we look and say, okay, that's a story. I'm supposed to get something from that. No, these are historical events, historical people who really lived on this earth and were used by God in amazing ways. And we're to look at their lives and see that they're examples for us. And examples, really by definition, is something that we can follow. Somebody that is doing something, we can literally follow them. So that's what we're looking at, and we're seeing this in the Bible. Some of these guys' lives and some of these girls' lives, just the faith that they had, and we're supposed to be following that. So that's what we've been doing. And today we're going to be looking at a guy from the Old Testament. You probably know of him. His name was Abraham. So we're going to be looking at Abraham and just seeing his life. He was, and I was going to start off in a funny way. Do you know the song Abraham? Like, he was a father. Many sons had father Abraham. Anybody else? Okay. Yes. This is my time now. Stop. No, I'm just kidding. You guys are always still. No. Just joking. No. Yeah, I was going to break into that. I was going to go into the song, but you guys did it much better in that way. But no, this is Abraham from the Old Testament, and I'm going to cram in a whole lot in this small little section with Abraham. We're going each week just kind of looking at these guys and just seeing their lives. And so, again, I said before, it's kind of like raking with the leaf. You know, you get a little bit, but we're not really going to be digging and getting really deep in some of this stuff. We're going to be kind of raking through some of this, and that's what we've been doing, going through Hebrews chapter 11 and looking at some of these guys. And so Abraham, there's a whole lot you can talk about. You can go in Genesis and just see many, many chapters about him and his life and how God was using him and building a nation. But we're just going to kind of glance through that a little bit. But we've been talking about this with faith, and here just to kind of start off, faith is absolutely essential for us. Especially being, Christians coming into the church, it's like, this is essential. Faith is essential for salvation. It's essential for us to be walking with Christ. You got to have faith. And so we've been talking about that, examining it, really looking at what it means and seeing some of these examples and how they lived in their life. But let me read this verse. I've read before. This is Hebrews 11:1. This can be looked at as a definition of faith or really just kind of a picture, kind of what faith really looks like. So Hebrews 11:1, it said, "Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see." So faith is more than just empty words. Faith is more than, this is what we've been talking about these last few weeks. It's more than just, I believe there's a God out there, and you don't really do anything. It's more than just this belief in this, having this intellectual knowledge that there is a God out there, or even believing that there is a Jesus. We've talked about that throughout these past few weeks. So it's more than that. There's a substance to it. There's a substance to your faith. It's like, I believe this. I mentioned that it's absolutely number one. You got to believe in God before you can be a Christian. But having faith and trust, it's more than that. It's taking that active step. And one of the passages I've spoken on, I don't have it up here on the screen, but I've spoken the last few weeks, is James 2:19, which is just comparing the demons and saying the demons believe there's a God, but they shudder or tremble in fear. And us, if we just have an inactive faith, if we just believe there's a God and we do nothing with that, we don't have any active faith, we're being compared to demons, which is not a good picture. So he says, if you have this dead faith, you're the same as demons in this way. So you got to believe in you, but it's taking that active step. It's actually stepping forward. I believe in you. I believe in Jesus, that you came into this world, that you died on the cross, and now I'm going to do something with that. I'm going to follow you. I'm going to actively follow you. And perfect picture today, we're talking about baptism. This is really, you think about like that first step, and this is following him and doing that in obedience. So we've been looking at that. Joni Eareckson Tada had a quote from her. She said, "Faith isn't the ability to believe long and far into the misty future. It's simply taking God at his word and taking the next step." And I thought, what a great picture of that it is. If you want something really to take, I want you guys always to be able to take something from here, not just hear some things, get some goosebumps, and leave out of here, and you're like, I don't know what to do with that, but I feel good. I want you guys to be able to take something with this. It's like, read this stuff. Well, what do I need to do with this faith? And it's like, well, take that next step. I overwhelm myself so often on things that I want to do. I've got ideas, and sometimes I'm not the most organized, and Beth knows that, and I still got to pack for camp today. I've got most of it, but still got a few things I'm trying to do. But sometimes I'm slow on that, and sometimes I overwhelm myself. It's like I want to do all this stuff, and really kind of going with this with faith, and what she's saying there is like, what can we do here is take that next step, is start to follow him. Whatever he's asking you to do. You can read the word, you can follow him. Maybe you know what he's calling you to do, and you can take that next step. You don't have to save the world today. Just take that next step and follow him. So I think that was pretty good what she's talking about there. But it's more than this dead faith. It's stepping out there in action. It's putting action behind your words. I believe in you, and taking the next step. So let's look at Abraham. I want to go to Hebrews chapter 11. I'm going to read verses 8 through 12 right here. In a minute, we'll go to Genesis, and we'll look at that. But I want to read Hebrews 11 right now and just look at Abraham. We've been going through this chapter. So I'm going to read right here, verses 8 through 12. It says, by faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he didn't know where he was going. By faith, he made his home in the promised land, like a stranger in a foreign country. He lived in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, who were heirs with him in the same promise. For he was looking forward to the city with foundations, whose architect and builder is God. And by faith, even Sarah, who was past childbearing age, was enabled to bear children because she was considered him faithful who had made the promise. And so from this one man, and he as good as dead, I love that there, came descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as countless as the sand on the seashore. This guy who was as good as dead, I really love it in there. This made me think, I turned 40 about 3 weeks ago, and I went up to Dallas with some friends, and my cousin is the same age as me, and a friend of mine, he turns 40 next month, and so we were all up there hanging out, and we were joking, we were going around everywhere like, I think I want to get this, and it's like, I don't know, that's probably not good, it's too sugary, and it's like, hey, we're almost dead, we're 40. And so we were doing that all week and stuff. So we just kept going and stuff. Now, I'll say if you're older than 40, I'm not saying right there. I'm joking about all that. Like they say, 40 is the new 25. They is me. I guess I say that, but yeah, boo. I know. It's all downhill from me. And Bailey was joking about, she's like, he's so funny and all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm bombing right now. But anyway, no, write this down. With faith comes tests. With faith comes tests. I mean, right, it's not really faith if it's not being worked out. That's easy. Sometimes I don't want to have my faith worked out. I just want it to be easy. I just want it to go smoothly. But when I'm past the thing, when I'm past the test, I always love looking back, and I'm glad I went through that because it stretches you. It makes you stronger, and that's exactly why he's doing it. God's not up there playing with us. He's not like laughing and all this stuff. He wants to take us to a certain place, and he's stretching us. And it's like the only way you can be strengthened through this or be prepared to be able to do whatever it is that he wants you to do and to become the person that he wants you to be is to be stretched in some ways. And that's hard. It's difficult sometimes. But even in things, even if it's not faith in this life, there's things that you've gone through and you've worked out something and learned something, and you see the benefits of it, of going through something really difficult. And it's the same way with faith. He's taken us to a new place. And I think it's important for us to understand that. Look back at Genesis chapter 15. This goes back to looking at Abraham, and I want to see what it says there in Genesis. It says, after this, Genesis 15, 1 through 6. After this, the word of the Lord came to Abram. This is Abraham before his name was changed to Abraham. The word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your very great reward. But Abram said, Sovereign Lord, what can you give me since I remain childless? And the one who will inherit my estate is Eliezer of Damascus. And Abram said, you've given me no children, so a servant in my household will be my heir. Then the word of the Lord came to him. This man will not be your heir, but a son who is your own flesh. Your own flesh and blood will be your heir. He took him outside and said, look up at the sky and count the stars, if indeed you can count them. Then he said to him, so shall your offspring be. Abram believed the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness. So this is huge. Abraham and Sarah are going to have a kid now. They've been waiting for this. They're getting older. They're past 40. They're up there, and they're wanting kids. They're wanting kids from God, and he's telling them there. He comes, and it's really in a grand way. It's not just like, hey, you guys are going to have a kid. Hang in there. It was pretty grand. It was like, you're going to have this kid. I want you guys to understand, like, if you can go out there. Now, they're not in some big city like Houston or L.A., New York, or whatever. There's lights everywhere. They're out there, I believe, where they can see the sky. And he says, if you can go out there, if you can count all the stars, so will your offspring be. What a great way to tell them. Like, you could have just said, we're having one, but this is better. Like, this is amazing how this is going to be, and that our line is going to continue on. And so he's telling them this right there. And so they're getting excited. Like, that is a big picture right there. It's like, I was trying to think of, like, all the kids he's talking about. Is he talking about, like, 19 kids and counting? The show where they just keep going? He's talking about Travis and Tanya. I mean, you guys are right there, right? I mean, nobody really knows how many kids you guys have. They're just, I don't know how many there. Yeah. But no, I mean, there's a lot. He's like, it's just going to continue on. I want you guys to understand this. If you can count all of them out there, and you can count your offspring there. So what a great way that he's talking about. But then you go into the next chapter. I don't have it up there. You can go and read through this. And you can see their faith kind of beginning to wane. Like they're just, it's been a while. They followed God in faith. They've gone to this promised land where he wants them to be, and it's been about 10 years now. And it's like, you haven't given us these kids anymore. And Sarah's 75 now. Abraham's 85. They're getting up there in age. And this is more our type of age now. It's not like beginning of the Bible when people live 900 years. You're like 75. They still got like 500 years, 600 years. No, this is getting a little more normal. Like you think about our times, and it's not happening. So their faith's kind of beginning to wane. And so Sarah is like, I want to push this thing along a little bit. I want to help out God. Maybe he's asking us to do this. Maybe this is the way he's doing it. So she's like, okay, Abraham, we won't talk about like what he's thinking there in his picture. And that. She's like, Abraham, you need to go with my servant, sleep with her, and have a kid. Maybe this is how God wants us to have this kid right here. So there's a whole lot. We could just spend like a whole week or a few weeks or months talking about all that stuff right there. But she's like, go sleep with him. Go sleep with her, not him. You wouldn't have a kid that way. Go sleep with her, and then you can have kids. So they do this, and they're trying to push this promise along rather than trust God in his timing. In fact, write that down. Faith requires trusting God in his timing. That is the most difficult thing. Isn't that, I think we can all agree here. This is me. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I believe in faith. I can get up here on stage. I can talk about this. I can talk about all these things here. But when it comes to, I can say, I believe you, God. I believe you can do all these things. But when it comes to getting in the middle of it, when you're trying to trust him, if it's not immediate, if it doesn't happen right away, man, whatever it is, it's really tough to really trust in him. Faith requires trusting God in his timing. I know that, man. I need to hear that so often in my own life. I try to push things along. I try to make it in my timing. I haven't tried the Abraham and Sarah's way and things like that. But I've tried to do things, to try to push it along. I think about this even with, when somebody else, when you ask them to do something for you, maybe this is just a picture we can see in our own life. When you ask somebody to do something for you, maybe it's my daughter, maybe it's my wife, and I ask them, can you go and, do this? And they don't exactly do it the way that I want, or it takes a little bit longer. And then what do you do when somebody else, you've asked them, but you know how to do it? Too often you're like, yeah, you need to do it like, you do it this way. Here, let me just do it. You just kind of push them out of the way. Watch me. Maybe next time you can do it. And you just get them out of the way. And I got to think in some way it's that way. It's like, I don't know what he's planning up here. Let me just get in here. Let's move this along. Or maybe this is what he's asking. Maybe this was his plan. It's like we have this servant girl. She's been there all along. We need to make this through her. But they do it, and this wasn't what God was asking. It requires his timing. It requires what he wants in his timing, which is the most difficult thing. I think it's so often there. Trusting in him and his timing will test you, will frustrate you, will just works out your faith in so many ways. But you can't, I don't believe that you can really trust in God if there's no certain amount of time between something. You know what I mean? Like, is it really faith if you don't have to maybe wait on something? I know that's difficult to think about. I was thinking about this week. It's like, it's not really faith if you just like, I'm going to do this for you, and it's like right there, like I'm going to give you this with my left hand, and like right away, you don't have to really faith, like you're just stepping out there. It is, but that's so difficult. It's like, I think there has to be a certain amount of time on things. I can't tell you why he does that or what the amount of time is on things, but I believe with faith, there's always seems to be a certain amount of time on some of that, which is so hard, stretching your faith out there. And I think he's got a plan for all of that. Look at Hebrews now. Let's go a little bit further than that. Hebrews 11, 13 through 16. And he's talking about, this kind of a middle section here, talking about Abraham, his family, kind of what's going on here. He said, all these people were still living by faith when they died. They didn't receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance, admitting that they were foreigners and strangers on earth. People who say such things show that they are looking for a country of their own. If they had been thinking of the country they had left, they would have had opportunity to return. Instead, they were longing for a better country, a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. So I think about Abraham, I think about his family, I think about the first thing that he was told to do is like, I want you to take your family. I want you to go to this place. Now, again, he doesn't really know about it. He doesn't know exactly what's going to happen, but he's taking that first step and he's following. And then he's telling him, I'm going to have this long line. You're going to have family. I'm going to give you a kid, and it's going to go on. And he's telling him this, and he takes that step. But I like, what he's saying there in verses 13 and 14 is like, they didn't get to see it all. I mean, they really didn't see it all. They got to see the son. They got to see that finally happen. And I guess really kind of kick off this family line, but they didn't get to see everything. They didn't get to see like the nation become what it was going to be. He didn't get to see all of that. And I look at that even with our lives. It's like sometimes he gives us these promises, and even think about the furthest promise. We think about this heavenly home. Like these guys were going. I got to think this was a picture of them looking. Okay, we're going to this new country, but there's also more to that. When he's talking about this heavenly one, there's something greater. They didn't get to see all of this in this life, but later on, even going to be with God, we're going to get to see this heavenly home. We're going to get to see this further along. So you and I, sometimes there's promises like we don't get to see this fully fulfilled in this life. You may get to see some of it, even like salvation, like completely saved and like there with God and no sin, no tears, no any of that. We're not going to see that in this life. This world is broken right now, but it's later on when we get to go be with him. We get to see that. And so that's kind of the faith. It's like we don't see all of that. We get to see like a small picture of it, just a little snapshot of this and coming together with family. And like, I love this. I love getting around other Christians and worshiping. And it's just something about it. Praising God. All different people come from different parts of life, and we're here and we're worshiping him and all this stuff. So we get like a small picture of that. But this isn't heaven. This isn't perfection. So we get a small picture of that. So I like to see that there. This world is not the end goal. I think we were understanding that this world is not the end goal. And if anything, I would say like we have to understand that. That's difficult for us, but this world is not the end. This world is difficult. This world is hard. Maybe more difficult for others of us. Okay, I'm telling you, I want to give you encouragement on that way. Like coming to God, like this isn't all there is. It may be broken. I may not completely understand anything about your life. I may not understand about somebody else's life. I could never relate with you in so many ways. I'm not trying to do that. But I'm telling you, what I would encourage you with, and what I see here from the Bible, what I'm saying is like, this isn't it. This isn't the end. This isn't all there is. It's going to be better than this. And that's part of faith. That's part of being able to get this picture from God, read his word, trust him, have confidence and assurance in him. We see with this Hebrews 11, one verse, we can see, I trust you, God. This isn't all there is. I'm going to follow you no matter what, because this isn't all there is. And they were thinking of that. I think they were picturing this. It was difficult, but they knew, I'm going to trust God no matter what. He's in control of all this. Now, look a little bit further with me now. Hebrews 11, 17 through 19. This last section of this area, like I said, I'm scratching through this. There's a whole lot. You may know about this. And this is maybe a tough section, really, to kind of read. Just with the story there with Abraham and Isaac. By faith, Abraham, when God tested him, offered Isaac as a sacrifice. He who embraced the promise was about to sacrifice his one and only son, even though God had said to him, it is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned. Abraham reasoned that God could even raise the dead. And so in a manner of speaking, he did receive Isaac back from the dead. I think about that with it. If you are one of those people, like my wife is one of those that if she, maybe sees a kid in the car like too long or whatever, even if it's running or whatever, and, just something that way, or a dog, or she's one of those like it's just all up in there, wanting to call police, if it's something bad like that. This is something I would think if CPS was back then, let's just be honest, if CPS was involved in this case, I'm just being real, I'm a Christian and I know this, they definitely would have been called on some story like this. This is not a normal story. You read this and we're like, I don't know about this. This is really wild. This is tough to really kind of believe. Okay, God is asking this guy. He's like, okay, this is his promised son. I want you to have him. This is where your line's going to go. And now he's like, I want you to give him back to me. And this is difficult. Think about this. Okay, Abraham is now 100 years old. Sarah's 90, and they have this kid. Again, I want to acknowledge that this is weird. This is 100 years old and 90 years old. Again, I said this a minute ago, but this is more like close to our times now when you think about these ages. You can't miss the amazing thing here. And this is God working in this. This wasn't just normal people having kids at this age. This is really wild that this is happening right here. But it was, again, their faith is being stretched and being tested, and they've come, and God finally, even though they didn't believe this was going to happen, they finally got this kid, and they're at this age, 190, having kids. I don't know how it would be. Like, I really want you to get this. Like, maybe they're going to the store. You're going to go to Hebrew Mart today, honey. You can pick up some diapers. And it's like, which one's for them, for the baby, or for us? That's kind of the picture that we're seeing right there. This is the crazy, really story right there. But now he's being asked, okay, I want you to give your son back to me. I don't know what I would do in a situation like that. My daughter's in here. It's like, if God had asked me to do that, he hasn't asked me to do that, just in case you're wondering, yet. No. Don't call CPS on me. Just an illustration. I don't know. What a wild story of what's happening there. What would you do in this situation? But what we do know about Abraham here is that he did trust God. This is his idea. Okay, I trust God. I don't know why he's doing this, but I see what he's doing. He's going to have our family line go through Isaac. And so I know he's having a tough time sitting there like, all this time we waited for this. All this time we've trusted in him. We moved. We did these things. We did this right. I messed up. I slipped up at the beginning, but we trusted in him. We're here, and he's giving him this son. And now he's like, you need to give him back. You need to do this. And so I got to think there was a big struggle that was going on there. Now, he eventually trusted God. He was going there. And it's kind of a crazy story there. But it does say that he did believe. He said, okay, God, I don't know what he's going to do here. He's either going to raise him or he's going to stop. Or I think he's knowing this. He's like, I believe in God no matter what. And God did stop him. And so I know that's a tough story, but I do want you to understand, like, I don't know what stories are going to happen in your life. I don't know what things God is going to do in your life. I don't know what he's going to ask you, but I do believe if you're trusting him, he is going to test you. He's going to push you. He's going to ask you to do things. He's not going to ask you to do any sacrifices. Jesus has done all that. That is all done. In fact, I would say he was never going to do this with his son anyway. This was just, he was testing him to see, are you with me on this? I've given you this son. Are you going to trust him? And he was never going to do that anyway. So I don't know what he's going to do, but I do believe he allows us to go through things. He tests us. He pushes us, and he's like, are you with me here? Abraham was being tested big time right there, and he trusted in God. He took the step. He took his family, moved to this place, went on for years, and just kept wanting this kid. Didn't know what was going to happen. He finally did, and God continued to test him, and he blessed him, and he did the things that he said he was going to do. Faith is... Man, it's such, I don't know if you guys have been reading much on this as you've been going through this series, and I hope you will. It's really tough. Maybe we simplify it too much, but faith is, and God is asking us everything from our lives. I talk about this a whole lot throughout this series, and I talk about him saying he wants us to die to ourselves, or he wants us to completely just give everything to him. to give up your old lives and just be all in with him, not part ways, not straddling the fence, but he's saying, I want you to give your whole life to me. I want you to trust in me with everything, because then you're going to follow him. And then you get down and it's all him, and you push your old nature to the side. Your old nature, like just our life and us thinking we can do everything without God, that is going to deceive you. It's going to mess you up. It's going to take you down the wrong roads. It's going to deceive you in so many different possible ways. And we can't do that. So our faith cannot be unwavering. Here's the last verses I'm going to read. This is James 1, 6 through 8. Speaking of our faith and not wavering in it. It says, but when you ask, you must believe and not doubt, because the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. That person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Such a person is double-minded and unstable in all they do. If you waver in these ways, if you're kind of straddling the fence, God, I'm with you, but I don't really know. This seems kind of extreme. I don't know that I'm going to step out there. We read a poll a few weeks ago about the world and what they think of as extreme, and it seems to be going down. Extreme is just telling somebody about your faith or reading your Bible in public. That's extreme to our world now. And if we take on that, and that's our model in our life, like some of the things that God is going to ask us to do are going to be like, it's too extreme. Are you listening to the world? Are you listening to what everybody else thinks? Are you listening to God who loves you? And he's like, I'm going to stretch you. I'm going to try to do some things, but I've got a plan. I've got something I want to do through you. Real faith is an active faith. It's God, I believe you, and here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to step out there. I'm going to follow you with everything. And I want to close here with, I was reading this book, and there's a quote on faith. This is from a book called, not from this book. This book is quoting from another book called My Utmost for His Highest. It says, faith is the heroic effort of your life. You fling yourself in reckless confidence on God. God has ventured all in Jesus Christ to save us. Now he wants us to venture our all in abandoned confidence in him. The real meaning of eternal life is a life that can face anything it has to face without wavering. Again and again, you'll get up to what Jesus Christ wants. And every time you'll turn back when it comes to the point until you abandon resolutely. Yes, but supposing I do obey God in this matter, what about ... Yes, I will obey God if he will let me use my common sense, but don't ask me to take a step in the dark. If a man is going to do anything worthwhile, there's a time when he has to risk everything on his leap. And in the spiritual domain, Jesus Christ demands that you risk everything you hold by common sense and leap into what he says. Trust entirely in God, and when he brings you to the venture, see that you take it. We act like pagans in a crisis. Only one out of a crowd is daring enough to bank his faith in the character of God. There was a whole lot in there in reading in that. But guys, I just want to play some music. I want to encourage you guys. We're going to do some baptisms here in a second. But I don't know where you are in your life. I don't know. And we're talking about faith. Like, this is absolutely essential. It's essential to following God. You can't just come here and say, yeah, I believe in God. I have this, I have this knowledge that I believe there is a God, and just kind of leave it at that. But faith it really is like this. It's this step. It's like there's this substance to it. I've mentioned before, and just a picture for me was this building with a foundation underneath. You don't see the foundation, but that is so important for the stability of that building being there. And that's the same way with our faith. Like, your faith has to have some type of substance behind it. Is there active faith, or is it just a dead faith? Do you just believe there's a God and do nothing with that? Or are you actively following him? That's what it means, guys. This world is temporary. This world is not all there is. So whatever you're going through, this isn't all there is. He wants to help you, but I can't guarantee you that he's just going to make you a millionaire and make all those problems go away. That's not what he promises of us. But he does say, like, this world is not all there is. He promises to save us when we trust in Christ. By faith, you trust in him. And he says, get rid of all your old stuff. Live for me. Trust in me. And I will help you. I will give you this peace that passes all understanding. I'm going to help you. I'm going to make your future bright. I'm going to make your future a great eternal place. You're going to go be with me in heaven when you trust in him.